My sister-in-law fell down the stairs, hit her head and sadly passed away. My husband then accused me of pushing her. Cops involved. My 30th husband, Luke, 33M, had a sister, Laura, 29F. We were all close and saw each other 2 to 3 times a month, along with their parents. Almost 6 months ago, Laura fell down the stairs at their family home and passed away. It was a freak accident. There's a window on the half landing and she hit her head on the sill. I was the last person to see her. I was there for less than 10 minutes and she was in her pajamas making coffee. I didn't even stay for a drink, and I struggle with how such a brief and meaningless interaction could have been her last. She deserved so much more. My husband and I have only been married for a year, but we've been together for 4 and have known each other for 20 plus. When Laura's parents found her, they called my husband straight away, and we rushed over. We faced the whole thing as a family. In the days after, Luke started quizzing me. Exactly what we talked about, what she was wearing, where we were standing, etc. It progressed to saying I was providing conflicting information. On tiny details he was deliberately misunderstanding, and accusing me of withholding information because I couldn't tell him things like what pajamas she was wearing. This escalated quickly but lasted for less than a week, as I lost my cool and made it clear that I was done answering questions. He didn't bring it up again, and I wrote it off as a grief quirk. His behavior was generally that of a normal, grieving person. Last Friday, he outright accused me of uninstalling her in front of his parents, out of the blue. We were all stunned. There was an inquest which recently concluded, and there was never any doubt the verdict would be accidental death. He said it was completely obvious, and he couldn't believe that no one else could see it. He claims I went through his phone and found his messages with Laura. I have absolutely no idea what messages he's talking about. I have never looked at his phone. And that I went over to confront her and things got out of hand, and I pushed her downstairs. By the end, he was shouting about going to the police and getting the inquest overturned, and how I wasn't going to get away with it. Let me be clear. Laura and I had a great relationship. We all did. I have no idea where this has come from, other than these messages I haven't seen. And even then, I don't think there's anything I could ever see on someone's phone that would drive me to murder. It's just ridiculous. He's been with his parents since this happened and will not talk to me at all. I've had some contact with his mom, but she's not being very communicative. The last I heard, she didn't know what messages he was referring to either. I am still completely stunned and I have no idea how to proceed. I made a commitment to be there for him always, and I understand that grief can manifest in strange ways, but part of me feels like my love for him died the second he called me a murderer, and I don't know how we could possibly work through this. I also really don't want to be thought of in this way, and I have no idea if he has said anything to people we know. I obviously haven't. A brain tumor or psychotic break has crossed my mind, and I suggested it to his mother, and she just said she'll talk to him. Other than the questions before, he hasn't been acting odd. Obviously, he's been grieving, but he's seemed sane and sensible other than this. I feel like I'm going mad. Does anyone have any advice at all? Relevant comments. Commenter. Fudge no. You don't salvage this. You get a lawyer and get the fudge out. Best case scenario, he has just admitted to sending messages with his sister that he thinks would make you angry enough to kill her over them. I have some ideas about what those might be, and they're all bad. How did the parents react when he did this? Original poster. When he first laid out the accusation, at his parents' house, both his mother and I just kept asking him about the messages, and all he would say was that I know exactly what messages he was talking about. She was as stunned as me, and his father just said he didn't understand what he was talking about. He's a man of few words, but there was plenty of head shaking. The whole thing was surreal. No one knew how to react. I honestly don't know what kind of lawyer I would even speak to about this. From what I'm aware, the coroner's decision can't be appealed, and the police can't launch an investigation into an accidental death. I don't think I'm quite ready for divorce. We haven't spoken since his accusation, and I walked out about 5 minutes after he threw it out, and I have no idea what his frame of mind is. Commenter. You need to get a lawyer to protect yourself in case he does go to the police. I would write down everything that you can remember that happened that day and keep it just in case. He may be having a psychotic break. As stated, don't talk to him or his immediate family or your friends without someone present or preferably by text or email. Save everything. You need to take his accusations seriously and cover your ass. Original poster. I was interviewed by the coroner's office after her death, as I was the last person to see her. She died about 3 hours after I saw her, and I'd been to the supermarket and was home by that point. It's all verifiable and was a recorded interview. I haven't spoken to anyone but his mother, and that's only been over messages. She's never been a big texter, but she has seemed very cagey over the past few days. I don't know if this means she's seen the messages. I've asked and been ignored. Commenter: I think they mean record everything you remember about the day your soon-to-be ex accused you of murder. Original poster. I'm feeling so freaked out at the idea that he came up with this almost immediately after her death, and has either been sitting on it or planning his confrontation, that I'm basically trying to dissect the past 6 months. Maybe it's time I start writing things down. Right until it happened, things felt very normal. Obviously, her death has been felt deeply by all of us, and things aren't anything like they were, but there have been no signs of anything like this, even on the day. I'm absolutely desperate to see these messages, because I'm right there with you on the sheer wackiness of what they have to contain. It hadn't occurred to me that they might not exist. I've never known him to lie, but I do think a mental health issue is a real possibility. His relationship with his sister didn't seem odd, and I've never been interested in his phone, but he's never been defensive about it either. So I think you might be right. If I had such incriminating messages, I'd probably worry about them before now, when told to find an old iPad to use to access them. I have his iCloud password. It has a backup from yesterday. I have no idea how to turn this into something I can actually use. It doesn't have a messages folder or any signs of how to use it for anything other than restoring a whole phone, which I don't want to do. Does anyone know how to actually get the messages from this? Sorry to throw a tech support request in. I can't believe I didn't think of this. Huge thanks to the person who suggested it. Update 1. I'm in a bizarre and complex situation with my husband. I have broken the law, and I feel I have no choice but to do so again for my safety. I don't know what type of solicitor I need or what the next step should look like. We're in England, and I'll try not to editorialize too much. My husband's sister died suddenly at the start of the year. Her death was an accident, and there was no suggestion to the contrary. The inquest was recently concluded, and a verdict of accidental death returned. I was the last person to see her, but her time of death, which was almost immediate due to her injury, was confirmed to be hours after I had left the house. All of this was verified at the time. In the immediate aftermath, my husband behaved strangely and kept trying to trip up my story of the last time we saw each other, which was a brief interaction. Last week, months after this was first and last mentioned, he outright accused me of murder in front of his parents. He says I saw his messages with his sister and confronted her, and that he's going to have the coroner decision overturned and have the police investigate. I haven't seen or heard from him since. Today is day 9. I posted for advice online. I'm pretty desperate at this point, and it has spooked me, quite reasonably I think, but also led to me committing a crime and planning another. My husband's iCloud credentials were saved on an old iPad in his office, and I downloaded his backup last night. I have read all of his messages with his sister, and there is absolutely nothing like he describes. I understand this is illegal, and I'm concerned about the possible ramifications. I am also waiting for a callback from a locksmith to change the locks on the home we own together, which I believe is also against the law. So this leads to my actual questions. I feel justified in what I've done for my safety, but is there a degree of pragmatism under the law for these issues because of the situation? Or am I shooting myself in the foot? I am resigned to the fact my relationship is over, but his parents don't seem to be taking this seriously, and they're icing me out. I believe this is a serious mental health issue which may put people, namely me, at risk. Can I do anything about this when all I have is the fact I'm being accused of murder? I feel he needs to be detained, and this should be investigated as a full-blown psychotic break. Sorry, this is all a bit mental. In addition, what type of solicitor do I need? My understanding is that a coroner decision can't be appealed. Is that correct? Are his accusations going to go anywhere? Can I protect myself from this, or stop him escalating to telling others? We live in our hometown, and everyone knows everyone. This could follow me forever, and it's either a lie or a delusion. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Relevant comments. When told original poster can't lock out her husband or force him to get a psych eval. Thank you so much for your response. Locking each other out doesn't sound like a pattern I want to get into, but I think I'll go ahead and change them once on the basis that it isn't, You did this so you have to leave the house, and also you'll be prosecuted levels of seriousness. In terms of him being deemed to lack capacity, is there any way I can trigger the process that you know of? Is something like this sufficient for the Mental Health Act to kick in? I've been Googling, and you can be detained if professionals think your mental health puts you or others at risk, and you need to be in hospital. Seems very vague. Obviously, I'm biased, but accusing someone of murder and screaming about how they aren't going to get away with it feels like risky behavior. Does he need to have made explicit threats, or is there a clearer bar to meet? Sorry for asking so many questions. Commenter: You are jumping ahead of yourself and playing out situations that have not occurred. If your husband reports you to the police for accessing his data, and you are subsequently arrested or taken in for questioning, then obtain the services of a criminal solicitor for advice. With respect of changing locks, ending your marriage, seek a solicitor that deals with family law divorce. If you feel that you are at risk from your husband, talk to a domestic abuse helpline. If you feel you are at an immediate risk of harm, then call the police. If you think your husband is mentally ill and presents a risk to himself or others, call the police. Original poster. I don't think that's a fair assessment. Being accused of arguably the most serious crime to exist has most definitely occurred. My understanding of the law is that something is illegal whether you are reported to the police or not. Those messages are evidence, as far as I'm concerned, that his accusations are false. They were apparently the trigger to me literally murdering someone I was extremely close to. I have illegally accessed them, and I don't think it's unreasonable to inquire as to the potential impact of that. I am fully aware that I need a solicitor, but as you're probably aware, today is Sunday. I don't know if I need to seek someone out based on a divorce, which honestly, if this is a mental health issue, is not going to be something I go for, or a criminal solicitor, or someone who deals with the Mental Health Act, as my absolute priority preference is getting him assessed. My only exposure to the legal system in my entire life was through the inquest, and that is obviously completely different to any of this. I'm not educated in this area. Commenter: It's sad, and slightly suspicious, that Original Poster is jumping ahead to mental health assessments to defend themselves from accusations of murder when their husband is clearly going through some serious issues coping with the death of his sister. Original Poster: What else can I do? He has blocked me everywhere, and we went from a normal couple dealing with the new normal 6 months after the death of his sister, to me being accused of murder over a family dinner because of messages which clearly don't exist, and it's been 9 days and I've heard nothing since. Can I remind you that the inquest was held and concluded? I dropped off some Tupperware, grabbed an umbrella I'd left behind the previous week, went to a big Tesco, then went home and called my mom. I was already home by the time she died, and my whereabouts were extremely easy to verify because my husband was home all day. It's obvious that he's going through some serious issues coping with the death of his sister. That is the exact point of all of this. Update 2. I couldn't sleep last night, thoughts spinning endlessly. I was utterly consumed by everything that's happened. My husband, Luke, accused me of uninstalling his sister, Laura. It's so surreal. I feel like I'm trapped in a bad dream I can't wake up from. To catch up anyone who missed my original post, my sister-in-law, Laura, died in a freak accident almost 6 months ago. I was the last person to see her alive. She was in her pajamas, making coffee, and I was there for less than 10 minutes. Somehow, this brief interaction has turned into an accusation of murder from my husband. Luke believes I confronted Laura about some mysterious messages and pushed her down the stairs. There was an inquest which ruled her death as accidental, but Luke is convinced otherwise. He even said he was going to the police to get the inquest overturned. After a week of silence from Luke and only cryptic messages from his mother, I finally decided to take matters into my own hands. I illegally accessed Luke's iCloud backup to see these supposed messages between him and Laura. There was nothing incriminating, nothing that could justify his wild accusations. But now, I'm stuck with the knowledge that I broke the law in my desperate attempt to clear my name. This morning, I woke up to a series of messages from Luke's mom, Linda. She wants to meet for coffee. My gut churns at the thought, but I agree. Maybe she'll finally shed some light on what's going on. Linda and I meet at a quaint little cafe we've frequented many times before. As I walk in, I see her already seated, her face pale and tired. We exchange awkward pleasantries and she cuts to the chase. "Anna," she starts. I'm so sorry for what you're going through. Luke has been different since Laura's death. I don't know what's gotten into him, but I want to help. I breathe a small sigh of relief. Maybe she's here to help me understand, to fix things. I don't know what's going on with him either, Linda. He's convinced I saw some messages between him and Laura that led me to uninstall her. But I've seen the messages now. There's nothing there. She looks shocked. You've seen the messages? How? I hesitate but decide to come clean. I used his iCloud backup. I know it's illegal, but I didn't know what else to do. Linda's face softens. Anna, I don't condone what you did, but I understand. This whole situation is madness. Luke has been talking about these messages since the inquest ended. He's been convinced you did something to Laura, and I don't know why. Has he shown you these messages? I ask, hoping she might have more information. She shakes her head. No, he just keeps saying you know what they are. I've tried to get him to show me, but he refuses. It's like he's trapped in his own head. We talk for a while longer, trying to piece together Luke's behavior. It's clear he's been struggling with Laura's death in ways none of us understood. Linda suggests he might need professional help, and I agree. But how do we get him to accept that? After our meeting, I feel a little better. At least Linda is on my side, or at least not against me. I decide it's time to call in the cavalry. I reach out to some of Luke's closest friends, hoping they can help me get through to him. Our mutual friend James responds almost immediately. He's been friends with Luke since college and knows him better than most. We meet up later that day, and I explain everything that's happened. Anna, this is insane. Luke's never been like this, James says, shaking his head in disbelief. But grief can do strange things to people. I'll talk to him. Maybe hearing it from me will help. James promises to reach out to Luke and let me know how it goes. In the meantime, I decide to get legal advice. I need to protect myself, especially after accessing Luke's iCloud backup. I find a solicitor who specializes in both family and criminal law, and we schedule a meeting for the next day. The following day, I sit in the solicitor's office, feeling a mix of anxiety and hope. Her name is Sarah, and she's a no-nonsense type who immediately puts me at ease. Anna, you've done the right thing by coming here. First, let's talk about the iCloud issue. Yes, it's illegal, but given the circumstances, there might be some leeway. You were acting out of desperation and fear. We'll deal with that if it comes up. I nod, feeling a bit better. Now, about Luke's accusations. The inquest ruled Laura's death as accidental, and it's extremely difficult to overturn that. Unless there's new and compelling evidence, which it sounds like there isn't, his accusations won't hold water. She gives me more advice on protecting myself legally and suggests getting a restraining order if Luke continues his accusations. It's a lot to take in, but I feel more prepared. A few days later, James calls me with an update. I talked to Luke, he says, his voice heavy with concern. He's not making any sense, Anna. He's convinced you're hiding something. He wouldn't even let me see his phone. I think he needs serious help. My heart sinks. I had hoped James could get through to him, but it's clear Luke is spiraling further. That evening, I get a call from Linda. Anna, Luke showed up at our house today, ranting about the messages again. He's not well. I think we need to get him some help, but he refuses to see a doctor. We discuss our options, and Linda agrees to help me get Luke to see a mental health professional. We decide to stage an intervention, hoping he'll listen to all of us together. The intervention is set for the following weekend. We gather at Luke's parents' house, a place filled with memories of happier times. Linda, James, and a few of Luke's other close friends are there. We're all nervous, but determined. When Luke arrives, he looks surprised to see us all. What's going on? He asks, his eyes darting around suspiciously. Luke, we're worried about you, Linda says gently. We think you need help. He scoffs. Help? I'm fine. It's Anna who needs help. She's the one who killed Laura. I step forward, my heart pounding. Luke, I didn't kill Laura. I loved her like a sister. Whatever you think you saw in those messages, it's not true. Please, just talk to a professional. Let them help you. He shakes his head, backing away. You're all against me. You're trying to cover for her. James steps in. Luke, we're your friends. We care about you. We just want you to get better. There's a tense silence as we all wait for his response. Finally, he slumps into a chair, his face crumpling. I don't know what's real anymore, he whispers. I just want her back. It's a small victory, but it's something. We managed to convince him to see a mental health professional. It's the first step in what I know will be a long journey.